Because if not, I mean, with every day that passes, you're going to be that much farther behind. So you've got to really get in early and figure it out really quickly. You know, your friends, and adapt to it.
Yeah, I think both great comments. You know, really good lessons learned. So from the standpoint of GravitySummit, I have an aversion to Facebook. I don't know what it is. Twitter has been the best business development tool I've had in 10 years. And I really mean that. And I have gotten direct business from Twitter, and it's unbelievable. My co-founder of GravitySummit, Rodney Rumford, calls it a particle accelerator, because it really is. It's like an explosion. So from a GravitySummit standpoint, we didn't pick up Facebook as quickly as we probably could have. But working with companies, because I do corporate education and I work in the consulting side of it, there's a couple of things that I can say for both large and small companies. The idea that you have to grow organically is absolutely critical. You cannot buy your way in, and that's a great way to put it. You just can't do it. And just because you launch a Facebook page does not mean you're going to have any activity at all. There are, it's something like 75 million blogs a day are started, okay? The numbers are they're so big that you can barely comprehend them. So people will say, well, gosh, MySpace is gone, so why should we invest in any of this? If it's this much work and we have to, kind of a lot of TLC with it, why should we do it? And the answer to that is the way that we communicate has changed forever with all of this transparency and short-form communication and sharing and all this type of thing. And so these platforms may go through other iterations. But the fact of the matter is this is a new way that marketers are connecting with the brands and that consumers are connecting with each other. So you have to learn the language of Facebook, the language of Twitter, the language of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great B2B lead generator, by the way. And so you have to learn those things. And the mistakes that are made are, so then people say, well, we're not fast enough to get in. In some cases, companies are standing back on purpose. They want, I have a pharmaceutical client that says, we will never be a first mover. We will be a fast follower. We're going to wait for everybody else to figure it out, and then we'll decide how we want to go out and get involved. And my answer is that's great, but in social media, before you even do something actively, you can build a listening engine, which is a lot like reputation monitoring in the corporate world, right? But you can begin through some really sophisticated tools and search tools and Twitter and listening API, apps that are out there. You can begin to listen to the buzz that's happening around your brands and your news, etc. So the mistake people make is not to do anything. Okay, you need to take action, get educated, and learn how to be involved in this. Even if you don't tweet one tweet right now, that's fine. But know what's going on, because this is not going away. And I'll just finish with this. Years ago, I was in a corporate environment where I remember sitting in a marketing meeting where we said, why should we have a website? We already have brochures. And so that's kind of where we are right now with social media.
This web thing might take off. I think it's interesting that for GravitySummit, she talked about how Twitter has been so much more useful to them. We've actually found sort of the opposite effect, that we actually started focusing more on Twitter, but then very organically, our Facebook followers had just passed Twitter without us actually doing anything. And one of the things that we looked at in retrospect is that Twitter's really good for one-to-one communication and broadcast one-to-many. And what we were kind of looking for is more engagement within our brand. And one of the things that happened, because we have a lot of things around content, it's fun to talk about the movies, right? So it's great for when we can say, hey, here's the casting for Green Lantern, here's who's going to be in Thor, here's the Easter egg at the end of Iron Man 2, and anything on our site involving Twilight, right? If anybody has dogs or what, so anything involving that. They want to nurture a community, and Facebook is better for that, because if people actually post or respond to something that we post, whether they like it or post a comment, that gets seen by all the other followers. But when somebody else responds to something that we post on Twitter, that's not necessarily seen by the rest of the Twitter followers. Certainly people can retweet, but we found that it was less effective for getting more virality in the message on Twitter than it was on Facebook. But again, that was a learning process. We definitely had a different assumption going in. And I think the other thing that is kind of scary, we are talking mainly about Facebook and Twitter, and we talked about MySpace, but almost like it's a dead person, right? We've talked about LinkedIn, and that's great for B2B and personal brands, but I mean, there's a whole world of how else you want to define social media. You know, it's Yelp, High Five,
Foursquare,
Orchid, Foursquare, Koala. I mean, it's pretty frightening and daunting out there, and you know, we certainly don't play in all those arenas. I mean, we're lucky that we get a lot of inbound things, so we can partner with people. It's definitely a frightening environment when you look at it all out there.
And I think you're making a really good point about, Facebook is working, fast and furiously. In some ways, some people say too fast and changing too many things too quickly. But to be really, really, really relevant in the business space, I think they're doing a good job of it. And I have to say, my own prejudice for being, I don't want to, don't throw me another sheep, type of thing, is I'm totally, I'm there. I'm in Facebook and accelerating it like Twitter, because I realize that if I don't, I'm not going to help my clients, for one thing. The thing about Facebook is that it's changing so fast. There's new features that are added and dropped so rapidly. The business community is kind of asking Mark Zuckerberg, just, stay put for a few minutes so we can all adjust, right? You know what I mean? Or do you find it hard to adjust or no?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is Facebook for certain, kind of larger brands, they will kind of reach out and give you kind of a peek into what's coming and give you a little bit more insight into why they're doing it. And I mean, I think they really want to become the platform of individual identification across the web, right? So they're basically putting it out there and creating an entire network effect so that you don't even have to come to Facebook, that you can live on all these other sites through Facebook Connect and single sign-on, which I think is an incredibly powerful thing. And also, I mean, Facebook and Twitter, the thing that is overlaid on top of all this is the change in mobile, because I mean, over 50% of access to Twitter and Facebook is done through mobile.
Yes.
So that's a completely different platform. Your website does not look the same on a smartphone, and you have to take that into account as well.
And I'm going to bring this back. I guess the next couple of questions about, what do you think about Facebook versus Twitter? I don't have to ask those right now. But let's talk about dollars and cents. We're all pretty much business people calculating ROI for social media. The $9 billion question.
So, yeah, there were a ton. I saw the questions back on LinkedIn, and I think, about 60% of them were related to ROI. I mean, I think before you start measuring ROI, I think you need to think about what you're trying to measure, right? So it's defining the metrics up front and identifying with your key mainstream what social media can actually accomplish for you. Because if you look at the different use of it, right, Dell Direct is actually using it to drive traffic and drive sales, right? So they almost use it like a Groupon, right? So they'll basically announce super sales and deals through Dell Direct. You look at Comcast. Fandango is actually owned by Comcast. No booze. We're not a Comcast neighborhood. So they actually have Comcast Cares, where they're actually using it to humanize the brand and provide better customer service. Virgin America is using it as almost one of their main outreach vehicles for building the brand and building the business. So, I mean, Fandango, we make revenue two ways. I mean, we charge a service fee on top of the ticket, and we sell advertising, and so advertising needs page views and needs people to come and visit the site. So, I mean, we've really viewed it as, hey, can we drive traffic to the site? Can we try to humanize the brand and have engagement within our brand? So that's why we don't have a bag puppet tweeting. We don't have, kind of just our corporate logo tweeting. We actually have someone on my team who dedicates 20% of her time and probably another 20% of someone on her team's time focused on it. But a great quote. I was at a conference. I heard Jeffrey Hazlett. He's the CMO of Kodak. And if you ever heard him speak, he's an incredibly dynamic speaker. And he was talking about a conversation he had with his CFO when he was launching on social media. And he said, Jeffrey, what's the ROI on social media? And he said at the time when they were doing the monitoring and listing, 48% of the comments they had relating to Kodak on Twitter were negative. And so he said to his